It is founded by a Danish writer called Martinus Cosmology. He was born in 1890, and he lived for 90 years and died in 1981. And he explains when he was 30 years old, he got cosmic consciousness. He said it was a kind of enlightenment. His consciousness was open to the spiritual world, or he said he got new senses. He could see things behind life in the spiritual world. He could also observe the laws of life, the eternal principles for life and consciousness. And the last 60 years of his life, he wrote a spiritual science, which was based on his own observations in the physical world, but also in the spiritual world behind the physical world. And in the first place, he called his work for spiritual science. But I think in 1960, he also used another title of his work, and that was Martinus Cosmology, because the subject for his teaching or his writings, that is the whole universe. In a way, you could say that Martinus Cosmology is the theory of everything that exists. There are some in the theoretical physics who are trying to find a law, a principle for the theory of everything. But to me, Martinus Cosmology is the theory of everything, because Martinus works with an eternal universe. It has had an eternal past and will have an eternal future. So he don't talk about a limited time, but he speaks about eternity. He thinks that organisms, organs, cells, molecules are living beings, but he goes on infinitely in microcosmos. You know, you can say 0.1, 0.01, 0.001, 0.0. So there is not a smallest number, and there is not a largest number. 1, 10, 100, 1,000 human beings, planets, solar systems, galaxies, groups of galaxies. So I mean, Martinus takes everything into account in space and time. So, but he has explained the laws of life. He has made a science of fate. He has made a cosmical chemistry. Personally, I'm a chemist, and I know there is laws for the physical chemicals, but Martinus also thinks that all the energies that we use in our consciousness, they are also ruled by laws. And Martinus knew these rules and these laws, and he wrote about them. And he thinks if we learn all the laws for the psychic, the mental part of human beings, we will be able to construct a happy fate. For that reason, he made a science about life and living. And so in a way, his world picture, his philosophy, or his view on life is based on observation. And in that way, it is a science. The natural science is based on a method. You should be able to measure all things by physical means. So for them, science is a method in which they work. But to Martinus, the truth is science. So he talks about the eternal truth, the absolute truth. And he claims that he could experience it directly through his intuitive capacity, that he could experience it directly. But Martinus also writes about Jesus, not because it's a religion, because he would make, in a way, a science of Christianity. That means that he absolutely thought that Jesus spoke the truth. But for hundreds of years, thousands of years, people believed blindly in Jesus. And that's not that bad. I mean, if he speaks the truth, it's got good to believe in it. But now the world has become very technical and very scientific. The whole world is very technical and scientific. For that reason, the eternal truth had to incarnate in a new form. So, but the way Jesus behaved, that was correct. Could you imagine that every everybody on planet Earth behaved like Jesus, it would be a paradise. We would live in peace and harmony and health, and it would be wonderful. So it is the purpose of all Martinus' writings is to inspire people to practice neighborly love or to behave like Jesus. But people cannot do that today because they think it is stupid, it's naive, you believe blindly in authorities. But then Martinus would explain that it is the only scientific way, the ontological way to behave is like Jesus behaved. So Martinus used this expression, when the eternity entered the Christianity, it turned into a science in the form of his world picture, because with this eternal existence you get the reincarnation and also these psychic laws that he could experience. You have about reincarnation. When the eternity, reincarnation, the law of karma, law of fate enters the Christianity, then it becomes a science. So Martinus, he thought that Buddha, Jesus, they spoke the truth, but they taught people who lived 2,000 years ago. They had to be taught in a certain way, but now the truth has to be explained to scientific. And for that reason, Martinus made what he calls cosmic analysis. Martinus could, through his intuition, experience the truth, but he had to make it everybody ought to have access to the eternal truth through intelligence. So he explained these truths in an intellectual way, in an intelligent way, and then people can grasp it with their intelligence and all their observations in the physical world. Martinus knew the result, but the truth. But then he shows us all the calculations that are needed in order to come to this truth. So in that way, I really think that Martinus Cosmology is a science. But his last 10 years, when he was from 80 to 90 years, he was writing on a book called the Third Testament. So he would sort of complete Christianity. He would conduct the Christianity to perfection. Now it's 2,000 years since Jesus lived. And what has the result been? In one way you could say the Christian countries are the biggest warriors. Are there any other people or countries that have a stronger military force than the Christian countries? So you have not reached the final victory of Christianity. But Martinus saw it as his job to conduct to this final victory of Christianity. And in a way, Martinus' book, his main work, is the Book of Life, Livets Bog. And it was in 7 big volumes. And to me, it is a handbook in observation of life. You can have books about plants, and then you can read about the plants, you can observe them. It's easier to learn all the flowers and the plants to know when you have such a manual. But then Martinus had such a manual about all phenomena in life. And I've been studying Martinus for 40, 50 years since I was a teenager. And I have never observed anything that contradicts Martinus' analysis. But I have not, with my personal senses, experienced everything in Martinus' cosmology. But up until now, I have only had his analysis confirmed. So with this, in this way, I am a kind of a spiritual researcher. I make a research through my everyday life, and then I look upon life through the analysis of Martinus. Is that is a contradiction or not? But I've always had it confirmed. So to me, it's really a spiritual science. But Martinus then, between 80 and 90, decided to call his whole work for the Third Testament, because he wanted sort of to make a science out of Jesus' behavior. And in a way, the Third Testament is a continuation of the Bible. And what Martinus wanted, that was to contribute to eternal peace on this planet. But in order to do that, it should be shown in a logical, in a scientific way, it pays to be good. And you can only be happy when you make other people happy. But if you have a one-life theory, then you become very egoistic and you want to experience the biggest success and happiness in one life. And then there is a struggle about the resources on planet Earth, just like in the jungle. So it's very important to make it a science that it pays to be good. And then you have to have eternal life, reincarnation and karma before you can understand it pays to be good. So in a almost kind of humoristic way, he said, my mission is to show that it pays to be good. But it is a teaching about morality. He wants to teach people to practice neighborly love and to show this is the only logical way to behave. And his idea about Christ is that he was a perfect human being. He was a model. He is a kind of ideal for us. But through the evolution, we will also reach the Christ stage. So we are in our evolution, we are on our way to perfection. And Martinus wants to stimulate this kind of evolution.